Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I am Dr. Navodita Mishra, and today's topic for our webinar is New Age HR in New Age Industries. Let me tell you, I'm very excited to do this because there's a lot of confusion. There is a lot of uncertainty in terms of what is New Age industries and what role HR professionals has to play when it comes to New Age industries. So today webinar will focus on how are we defining these two concepts called New Age HR and also try to understand what is New Age industries. So let's start.
Participate. Why is she stopped?
Okay. So before we begin the understanding towards New Age industry, it's very important that we understand what is Industry 4.0. We know that we have come a long way from Industry 1.0. So when we talk about Industry, it's basically about, as the word goes, it's basically about technology. It's about AI, machine learning. It's also about cloud computing, big data, simulation. Now, these words suddenly popped into our dictionary of management, our dictionary of the way we do work, or our day. Now, these words have become our normal day-to-day conversation words, and suddenly we feel very overwhelmed by from where this augmented reality is coming, from where we have something called as additive manufacturing, or we have something called as hospitality management, and how big data, AI, or any such concepts entering into HR, because HR so far was just a people dominated arena, and now suddenly it seems like that it has become a technology dominated arena. So how this shift has to be taken care of, that is something also very interesting to look at. So the next question which comes to the mind, or the next discussion point could be, what is New Age? How do we define New Age? So we can look at New Age from three perspectives. The very first one is new business. We know how the business is getting redefined. Now, nowadays, business is about interconnectedness. So far, we have spoken about product, we have spoken about processes, we have spoken about people, but now we also see that another P getting added into this dimension called partner. So when we talk about, there has to be a very strong interconnectedness between people, process, product, and partner. Now this itself is bringing a new challenges, because seems like now with Industry 4.0, everything is becoming like a smart manufacturing, smart factory. That is a normal term we have started using now, because there's so much of focus on lean manufacturing. There is so much more focus on lean data. There is so much focus on interpreting data, transforming data. So obviously the businesses are also changing. We also have to understand that with the change, the basic reason for the change in this new business is new technology. Now, our technology is not only limited to our smartphones. Technology has actually become our way of living. So, with the individual who's working for a company is already breathing, sleeping, reading, eating technology on a daily basis. Since that is the scenario, the same individual coming to an organization as an employee is coming with a very tech mindset. It can be completely technology driven individual who is your employee, and different technologies from robotics, from virtual reality, from chatbots, so many things are entering into the workplace. So far, technology was only in terms of the Facebook Messenger, or was in terms of Microsoft Messenger, where we used to drop in the messages saying, hey, let's have a meeting, or let's have a very quick round of coffee meeting or something. But now everything is changing, and it's changing to an extent that companies are going and saying, BYOG, that bring your own gadgets. So we are saying that, since you're comfortable with your own gadget and your own technology, bring the same technology to work and be effective at work. Third thing, when you look at New Age, it's something which we really need to pay attention to, is new generation. Though there is absolutely no doubt that still the most of the active workers in companies are baby boomers, but millennials are also entering big time into our workforce. Now, when we are talking about millennials, we are talking about Generation Z, we are talking about people who have started using technology from the age of 10 or 12 or maybe even earlier than that, in comparison to the other age workforce who might have got introduced to technology only when they started becoming part of the organizations or maybe they started earning. So, this new generation who has uh, really had a technology in hand at a very early age, and in comparison to a generation who had a little later, there are a lot of things which we have to take care, because both the generations has absolutely an advantage in terms of when we talk about baby boomers, we are talking about a generation with an excellent organizational memory. They have worked in a very tall hierarchical structure. They have this commitment to work for a company for a longer period. They are full of optimism. But when it comes to the new generation, Generation Z, they are also concentrating. So, since they are very tech savvy, their expectations and demands are very different. They are looking for excellent work life balance, so they want to use the technology for their advantage. They're also looking for something in terms of speedy advancements. If they suggest something, they want it has to be implemented in terms of, through technology, and it has to be imbibed in the way the organization functions. Of course, with this, a lot of other things also changing in terms of new age. Now they don't want to wait for annual feedbacks, they want continuous feedback, they want to learn immediately. So with this new generation, of course, the new kind of strategies are required to take care. So when we look at the new age HR, the new age HR has to focus on new business, that is, a new components of business, new technology, advanced technology entering into business, and who will operate on this technology. The people
कितने लोग हैं?
who can operate. So that is the new generation.
72 responses. मैम को लिंक्डइन में पोस्ट हुआ है वहां पे
Now,
स्टूडेंट
if you look
we
at
are
this
join
new
your
age, I have
script.
tried to, since it's a lot of people who are interested in HR and we are part of this webinar, let's combine new age plus HR. These words, which right now on your slide, looks very scary, because first of all, we are very already when it comes to adapting to technology, and then we see AI in HR, big data in HR. What are these terminologies doing? Are they going to replace people? Are they going to replace my role in the organization? Or what are they going to do primarily? So we know what is artificial intelligence for sure. It is the way in which the machines helps us in taking the key decisions when it comes to the big data, how we can make decisions. And I have left see this question now. Now, when we talk about in terms of new age in other industries, we can also talk
829
about
237
other
267
things like
9
data analytics and
237
all. But when I'm talking about C primarily over here in HR
261.
context, one thing which we really need to look at when I say new age plus HR, so your first two boxes could be new age, but plus HR is your plus C,
This is
and
someone
the
else.
C stands for culture.
Only one guy.
When I say culture, I want to say that how a new organizational culture is also a part of new age HR. We cannot just rely on artificial intelligence or big data as the concepts to sail through in terms of recruitment, training and development, or any other HR core functions. We also have to take care of the evolving part of the culture. The culture of the organization cannot be from industry 1.0, and we try to bring the concepts of industry 4.0 by calling it as AB, but we do not take care of the C part. So C part for HR professionals and aspiring HR professionals, this C part becomes very important, and the role of the HR manager over here is very important. How to create a seamless culture in an organization where my employees, my individuals do not feel overwhelmed or burdened by the A and B part. That is something the HR managers really need to look at and understand. So that completes our definition of new age HR. And then, of course, how the big data and AI is getting for the HR functions. Employee information. We remember the time when the employee information was, can be easily available thanks to these big technology. Now the HR doesn't have to do a mundane, routine, administrative task and move to something more strategic in terms of, rather than just sitting and filtering the resumes and CVs, there can be methods, there can be the apps, there can be the smart softwares which can do this whole day work for me within few hours, and the same HR team, the same HR individuals can engage themselves in more strategic work, in more people engaging work, in more employee experience roles, rather than just doing this administrative task sitting in somewhere in the organization. In terms of team training also, it has become very important to, AI and big data helps me to compose the teams which could be more functional in nature, rather than just making the teams out of their own intuition or gut, because I have the entire data of an individual in front of me in terms of his past experience, past expertise, in terms of the strengths of an individual, which can help me to decide that how the teams can be made more functional and how I can have a maximum benefit by creating those teams. Third thing is, of course, the hiring process and the smart people analytics. Now, even your AI getting into like taking the help of the social media in terms of hiring, where I can get in just by going through a social media post of an individual, I can get a snapshot of an individual. Whom am I hiring primarily? Because I'm not dependent on the 2 page or a 3 page resume or CV to hire an individual. I'm basically looking into the social interaction component, the social media component, the social identity of an individual on a portals of different online portals. So that helps me to make a very smart hiring if I have to rely on the technology. And with people analytics, we know analytics and HR is a gold mine combination, which a lot of people say nowadays. With predictive analytics, or whether it's the diagnostic analytics or it's a prescriptive analytics, the HR gets a huge help from these two components called AI and data. So now HR doesn't just go and talk about, because HR people have always found themselves taken aback when discussed in the meetings, that on what basis are you calculating the workforce gap, on what basis are you talking that you need so many people in your team. And then it was always a time when they have to take back and say that they are either dependent on some their immediate managers or their activity heads in the organization, but now they have concrete numbers on on their table to talk about what kind of people would be needing, what kind of talent will be required in times to come, who are expected to leave, how many are expected to fill in, what could be the internal promotion. All that could be substantiated with numbers, which make it more concrete and make it more quantifiable. Access to HR, to business, and to transaction data. Of course, when we access to HR, business transaction data means HR is entering into a more of the strategic decisions in terms of very imperative decision making. And as I have told you before also, that since with the help of these two technologies, HR is not compromising just spending their time on an admin task or a repetitive task or mundane task. They are getting into more of the designing of employee engagement programs. They are trying to get into designing of better training experience for their employees, better learning opportunities and career opportunities for their employees, for which the core requirement for HR to do something is to engage their employees around, rather than helping someone during onboarding with the laptop or just the tag. So that is something more is required to be done. So when the technology takes care of these repetitive low tasks, then the HR as an individual can come forward and engage more with the employees, one-on-one and get some very useful output from that. So we have some new HR questions also now, since we know that we have ABC defined in terms of artificial intelligence, big data, and culture. Now the question we have, and the food for thought for us as HR practitioners or HR academicians or aspiring HR professionals or existing HR professionals is, how can I align this ABC to deliver some amazing people experience or to deliver some amazing employee experience. We know that this whole concept has also evolved over the time. We have been using the word personal, then we started calling human, and then we started calling individual. So, and now we are calling it talent. So now the moment we use the word talent, then it becomes again very individual in nature, because so far it was personal or human, it was more about the organization. It's also about that human, the human resource in the organization is not the resource, rather employees are more like a creators in the organization. They create a lot of things, they create the brand of the organization, they create the reputation of the organization. These are the employees who talk about the organization to your outside workforce pool. So, how can I align ABC when creating an excellent people experience or an excellent employee experience? We have to make the shift from delighting our customers to delighting our employees as well. That is very, very important. Another thing which we have to really need to look at and again think over it is, how can we combine the left brain with the right brain? See, in order to understand this, how can I combine the logic HR with the creative HR, the hard HR with the soft HR? Now, it could be very simple, as though I'm using my AI to tell me that why my recruitment cycle should be this year. Though I'm using AI and big data to understand or do an in-depth training need analysis, but we cannot compromise on the relevance and the importance of human touch when it comes to combining with dealing with humans. So when it comes to the issues like counseling, when it comes to the issues like understanding your employee at a cognitive level, then it's very important to bring on the right side of the brain to process the entire task, and the numbers can be kept aside for some time. So that is also very, very important. The third thing, which is again going to be a food for thought for us, is how accurately we identify and impact our key business drivers. Now, that is also very important, because at the end of the day, every organization has its own business driven goals, and how it can be in terms of how HR can be more transformative in nature rather than just interpreting the numbers in terms of driving the business. So that is also very important in food for thought for us. Since we have certain very new age HR questions, there are certain new age HR roles which is going to emerge or which is already emerging and need a lot of attention from our side. And the very first one is the human experience strategist. Now, when I say human experience strategist, this is the person who's not the HR person, nor might be a technology driven person. He's an individual. Maybe we look for, or we can predict a role in the future where an individual is responsible for creating a complete experience for an employee as a very strategic maker in an organization, where an individual sits with the employee and explains that how this technology can make him more effective and can help him to create an impact, rather than saying how an impact can be created in your work through these technology. So it is something where a strategist takes care of the understanding of this technology at a very individual level, where the employee really understand what is in it for me. Why should I even think about taking care and understanding or learning this technology and making this technology as a part of my work? or the way I work, or my maybe approach to work. Then something comes like as AI auditor. When we talk about AI auditor, I really see that this is one of the role which you will see in future, in terms of when there we have a lot of data, there is a lot of question about data privacy. Now, it is very, very important when my entire data, my social media data, is available to my potential employer, then I am very concerned as an employee. So the organizations will definitely need some auditors to take care of how much data should be accessible, even if when it comes to the organization level, and how the privacy of the data, or how the privacy of the data can be maintained, how the privacy of an employee can be maintained, even if I have to use the data for the better employee experience. Another important role which can emerge is AI bias expert. We know how biased AI is, uh, though it is very smart when it comes to doing many things, but it can be also biased in nature. For example, I can tell you, if you remember, the Google came up with an AI platform where they wanted to track the human behavior thing, and they created something called as hate tracker, or uh, an app like that. And they wanted to know, the role of AI was to detect the toxic language used by workers at workplace, in order to take care of the way the whole thing functions, the human behavior functions. Now, it was a very good idea, but then the only issue over here was that, since the AI was tuned in a way that uh, AI was only detecting the words. Okay, now those words has certain words were feeded, and those words were taken as a hate word or a love word used at the workplace, in terms of controlling the toxic culture. Now, sorry, the toxic behavior. But we have completely ignored the fact over there is that AI is not mapping those use of that words or use of that language with culture. So maybe certain words for certain employees belonging to certain culture is very acceptable, and it's a norm to use those words over there at workplace, in comparison to people or the individual or employees from the other culture who are using these words. But then AI was not able to detect the culture part. And since it's not, then it was giving the information which was quite incomplete in nature. So we will need tomorrow, or in times to come, we'll have a job role where such biasnesses can be taken care of, if we are using AI to take some very key decisions in terms of human staffing. And of course, mindset coach. With a lot of things coming in, suppose, why are we assuming that every individual might be technology driven, but every individual might not be a person who loves technology? So there's a lot of apprehensions when it comes to adapting technology at work. I'm okay in adapting technology in my personal space, because I have control over that, and it's up to me how much I want to use it. But if the same thing becomes mandatory at workplace, then I really need some mindset shift. I really need someone to help me to understand why I need to use this technology, why do I need to learn. If I have any kind of resistance and apprehension, how that apprehension and resistance can be taken care of. So these are along with many other HR roles, these are the new HR roles which you're going to see in future, and it's very predictable in nature. Of course, there are certain barriers when it comes to adopting the new age HR, in terms of whatever we have discussed so far. And the very first barrier, which most of the company CEOs, in fact, 40% of CEOs believe that there is a huge talent gap. And because of this talent gap, okay, it's becoming very expensive and hard to find the people who are either properly educated or who are properly skilled. In fact, a lot of HR professionals, or a lot of CEOs have a concern that uh, there is no talent in the market, because of the two major reasons. First is the jobs which are coming in the market are not well translated to the future potential employees or a future employees. They have no idea what they have to do. The of course the B schools also need to understand that what they need to teach their students who are going to be future managers in order to fulfill that gap. So as so far as if the job titles, the job descriptions are not at the right place, it's becoming even more difficult to define talent and to fill the talent. And what is this whole concept of skill, upskill, reskilling? It's very much essential for the existing employees to reskill themselves, for the future employees to upskill themselves. It's becoming even more important to fill this gap. Concern over privacy we have already discussed, and it's a very huge concern. I leave the organization, but my data is still with the organization. I'm going to some future organization, and my data is already, before even I come for a face-to-face interview, they already have all the data of mine. Now, how much that data is gonna be safe in terms of the organizations? This is something which is huge concern, and this is also becoming a biggest barrier that the people are not ready to adapt to new technologies because nobody wants any compromise on their privacy. Ongoing maintenance in terms of every day the technology is changing so fast, but we are not able to change. Mindset is not changing. The speed is not happening when that speed. The agility is very less when it comes to adapting to new technologies. So again, the barrier itself becomes is how fast can we run? Because whatever I'm learning today, any good certification might even take 6 to 8 months, or might even take some time. And even to call myself certified or an expert in something, there are certain levels which I need to fulfill. By the time I do all that, I get to know that something else is entering into the market, and this is already a passing. So how to do that itself is becoming another barrier for us. Integration capabilities, there are so many softwares around. HRIS is there, and we have also got to know that now the companies or HRs are also using a software in terms of stress management, where you can take a call with the client. You're on a call with the client, and the client you disconnect the call, you end the call, and there is a tracker which is you might be wearing on your wrist, and which says that you were quite stressed out when you were talking to your client, and you should really take some 5-10 minutes coffee break, and then suggest you to take a 5-10 minutes coffee break, and that all is fine. But then how that tracker is integrated in relaxing me, that I don't know. My tracker is just telling me that I'm stressed out, but there is nothing in the organization in terms of technology when it comes to relaxing me, because I might not have even that much of bandwidth to take a 10 minutes gap, and I might be having a really packed day or a packed week. So how will I take care of that? And limited mindset, I'm not using the word over here closed mindset, because we totally understand, all of us agree to this, that technology is entering into our lives and we should learn it and we should adapt to it, but still we are not able to adapt to it full-fledgedly. And even if we are able to adapt to it full-fledgedly, we are not able to transform ourselves in by using that. So if the transformation is not happening, only the implementation is happening, then there is something which is really stopping us. There's some cognitive angle to it, which is not letting me take 2 steps beyond. So there's a very limited mindset, and how we can take care of that limited mindset when it comes to tackling the HR roles. How can I thrive and survive? Okay, so what could be the new age skills which are HR professionals that we need to approach we are very close to 2025. In fact, 5 years back, we were saying in 2020, this will happen. AI will become, big data will come. It's already here, and we are also in 2020, and the time is moving very fast. So we also have to be very fast in terms of understanding and getting the grip of what will keep us in the business, what will keep us on the stage to play our roles. So the very first is incredible employee experience. Now the time is to shift the entire customer experience to make it employee experience. whatever said and done, we cannot lose the touch with the core HR. AI comes, big data comes, these are the moving trends. Today, AI, we're talking about AI and big data. Tomorrow, we might be talking about robots taking interviews. Or day after, we can talk some. We can also talk. We are already talking about virtual reality, augmented reality. All these technology trends are the moving trends. They will come. Something else will come. At the end of the day, if we need to still thrive and survive, we cannot lose the touch with the core. Why are we here? We are here for people management. HR's role is not for technology management. It could be integrating technology and people. At any point of time cannot take a back seat. Then, of course, it's a time that HR start thinking and acting like data scientists. We see a lot of HR students, HR professionals getting extremely enthusiastic about doing a course in data analytics, but we are still not going and trying to understand the relevance of data science. Data analytics is just one part of it, but what is data science? So we have to talk in numbers. We have to interpret in numbers. That's extremely important. The society is going digital. We need a digital mindset. If I take you back to the slide of ABC of New Age HR, I would like to say let's have ABCD. So, artificial intelligence, big data, culture, and digital. So let's go to D also. Let's take E as well by saying evolve. So this all has to together evolve, and that is something we can, of course, survive. We have to build a digital mindset. Again, as I said, we cannot forget the core why HR, what is the function of HR? The core function of HR is people management. So we still need those skills like emotional intelligence. We need skills like cognitive skills. We definitely need skills like empathy, communication, mindfulness to take care to balance technology and people in the organization to continue to survive. And last but not the least, we should start looking into hiring people who are curious to learn, who are very curious to deliver, who are very curious to perform, who are very curious for their feedback. We have to look for individuals. If you do not know the technology, how to use it, as an organization, I can train you on that. But as an organization, I cannot create your curiosity. I cannot develop a curiosity in you. That is something you should have, and I will enable you and make you. Also, problem solving. We are not bothered about whether it's the right solution or the wrong solution. It's more about the approach towards the problem. How am I approaching towards the problem? That is something we really need to look into our future talent when we are hiring them. And of course, we cannot compromise on design thinking needs. Design thinking is not only restricted to marketing as a domain. Design thinking is re-looking at the problem in a different ways. How can I redefine the problem in a more creative way so that I can come up with the very doable solutions? Or even if I do not come with the doable solutions, can I keep digging the problem in a very creative way so the problem digging itself becomes the process to the solution? That is something that the three key skills we really need in our future employees, and we should look at them as the competencies when we are hiring. So that's all from my side. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, I would be very glad to answer.